that, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is the 12th and final round of this season, coming to you today from Watkins, Glen. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth, for the first time in I think about a month, is Charles Boshell, with Guido Marzucchi working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler. Charles, it feels like such a long time that we've been together on one of these shows. You were at for Thanksgiving last week, and then I was at for 2 weeks beforehand. So what a time to get back together for a race at Watkins Glen, which I feel like will probably be spawning some fights in the paddock.
Yeah, probably so. Obviously one of the most used tracks in iRacing. And I think we're here quite often as well in all of our variants of the Weekend Warrior. So it's going to be a really good race. We're using the short course today, so that's a little bit different animal than what we're used to using, which is the full configuration. But it should be a good race. A little bit smaller of field today, only about 18 cars out there, but I still think be some really good racing on hand.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a very good race. If not, we're probably going to see that tow truck driver really make his pay here. Currently in the midst of qualifying with still a lot of time left on the board. Jake Williams currently top of the pole currently with Dmitry Lukanov joining him on the front row. And Yerk Money up at the top in the Masters category, slotted in P6 at the current moment. Let's take a quick look, though, at the championship point standings as we head off into this round of the championship. Not a whole lot to talk about in Spec 1, where Mikey Pollard holds on to, I am going to say, possibly the biggest championship points gap in the entirety of Weekend Warriors competition. It was looking like it was going to be the Maurizio Nazelli show. Then unfortunately, Maurizio has been suffering from heel spurs, so we want to wish him nothing but the best. He's been out for the past about a half a season at this point, and Mikey Pollard has been able to grab that Spec 1 championship points lead and the championship, holding on to a nearly 200-point margin over Richard Harwood in second. Nazelli still with that dominance in the first half is slotted in third. Ian Anderson, the sponsor of today's broadcast, is slotted in fourth, with Christopher Cash completing your top 5 in the Spec 1 category. We'll take a quick gander now at Spec 2, where Dmitry Lukanov is also holding on to a very, very comfortable margin. And well, actually, I said that a few moments ago about Spec 1, how that may be the biggest gap. Is this the biggest gap? I think it may potentially be. That is a vast yawning chasm between Lukanov and Kevin Adrian in P1 and P2. The battle for second, though, may be intense between Adrian and Paul Jackson. I'm not sure if the both of them are here today, but if they are, we may have a battle on our hands. Peterson Rocha is slotted in fourth, and rather quietly, Daniel Verone has been able to jump his way up into the top 5 in your Spec 2 category. Now we'll take a look at Masters, where Yerk Money has been rather dominant throughout this season, going back to janitor form. Maybe it's just the fact that I haven't really been around for too much of the Formula Ford action this season, at least by my usual standards, missing out on 2 races as most I've missed out on quite some time. But Monty, it feels like he's been slightly under the radar throughout this season, Charles, even though he holds on to such a big gap in that Masters category.
Yeah, I think it's just due to the fact that maybe there was a few races. I know that Antonio wasn't here. He just didn't have the track, so he didn't race. So Monty, not really overly dominant, but I think just from the fact that there were some drivers missing some races, and Monty's been here. He's been running, and he's been finishing well, so I think that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, so it's been a darn good season for Yerk Monty, and a pretty darn good season, just generally speaking, here in the Weekend Warriors, just rounding out your top 5. Italian Degassis over Antonio Reese, over Jeff Webker, over Chris Murakami, just to tie a nice little bow on the championship point standings heading off into this race. But it's been a fantastic season of Weekend Warriors competition. This is going to be a tough one, though. So, Charles, I really think these keys are going to have quite a lot of importance, like about as important as grabbing the right key when you're coming home during a blizzard.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. I'm watching a spin there. So the nice keys to the race: use the draft that you can. Obviously, we know these cars is not huge drafts, but there is some, and there are some places where you can make the most of that. So use it where you can. Be careful. We do have an update to Watkins Glen from this season. The curbs on the inside there, the inner loop or the bus stop, depending on how you want to call it, have been updated, and they are treacherous. You have to be very careful through there. A little too far, you can get through there without hitting the inside barrier, but you'll basically launch your car into orbit. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think there'll be at least one of those Formula Ford NASA configurations before we get done. And then finally, know your track limits with the short course. Obviously, you don't get the boot, so you get that very, very long sweeping outer loop or the carousel, depending on how you want to call it. And there's a lot of room out there on the outside of that track that you can use freely without penalty. So you need to have that in your head as you're working your way around this course.
Yeah, and you brought up a fantastic point there, talking about the curbs, the updated curbs all around this racetrack, as they have been changed significantly. But even still, compared to the old configuration, which was pretty brutal, this is extra tough. The first curb in there completely changed. They changed that for NASCAR to make it a bit harder to try and cut. But here in these open wheel cars, it is going to be absolutely brutal. Bit of a short lap here, so this won't take too long. Riding on board with Ian Anderson, the sponsor of today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, currently qualified in third as he heads his way down the start-finish straightaway into the downhill braking zone of turn number 1. Now, turn 1 on this Cup configuration going to be vital in these Formula Fords. Look at the amount of runoff that we have on the outside there. Going to run it all the way out to the safer barrier to keep the momentum rolling all through these uphill S's. Now, side-by-side racing through here can be done. You're also probably going to find yourself in the hospital shortly thereafter. I've seen people do that before, and believe me, it does not work out too well. Heading off into what is going to be a driver's nightmare throughout the day. The inner loop, the bus stop chicane. The bus stop is a bit more fun. And look at that brand new inside curb there. That is absolutely brutal. That turn is pretty tricky enough as is, but with that new curb on entry, you're pretty much going to be tasked with trying to floss your teeth while hopping up and down on a pogo stick. Through the outer loop, the carousel, want to keep it tight on the outside there for Anderson. I think he may have some traffic right behind him. Usually you want to sweep it at there, keep the momentum rolling. These cars may have some of the most power and get up and go in the Weekend Warriors world, but they are still not the most powerful race cars in the world. Through the second to last turn of turn number 6, got to be wary on the curb on the outside there. And now through the final turn number 7, no runoff area to speak of. You're just met with a solid, safer barrier if you get tripped up through there. That completes a lap of Watkins Glen. And keep an eye on that pit entry, which in these open wheel cars can sometimes see a car go airborne.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something we'll have to keep an eye on today, because we do have a pit stop as per usual here in the Weekend Warriors. 40-minute race, 1 mandatory pit stop. And that entry is tricky, especially if you're in traffic, because, you have to keep pretty tight to the inside there. And sometimes people just get crossed up. I've seen lots of incidents and been involved in a few myself where you just kind of lose communications with the cars around you. And you end up getting tagged just trying to get off the track, get the car slowed down, or get into the pit entry line. And we mentioned that curve on the inside there going into the inner loop. The curbs on the way out seems like they're just as bad. I've seen lots of cars just on that left-hand curb on the exit of the inner loop, just get the car all kind of messed up. And makes it very difficult to get the car set for the outer loop, because you want to try and carry as much speed through there as possible. So it's just going to be one of those that you've got to just do what you can with the curbs and use them if you dare. If you don't, obviously there's a safe way around this track that doesn't involve any of those curves, but it's about a half second slower. So that is the one thing that's the trade-off.
And I remember a couple of weeks ago, it was in the Sim Racers Group F3 Championship when I was on that show and actually producing it. And I noticed that the cars were getting rattled to death in those low-slung Formula cars. They would hit the curbs, and it slowly but surely killed the chassis, because there were scrapes on the cars as if they were upside down when they hadn't been involved in a single incident all day. The wings were looking fine. It was just the chassis was slowly but surely getting rattled to pieces. So even in these Formula Ford cars, that is going to be a big worry all throughout this race. So have a good race car come time for the very end. You may be golden to try and get the final checkered flag of this Formula Ford Weekend Warriors season, not just from this season, but from 2025 as well. Yes, we will have a couple of races at the start of season 1 of 2026, but as iRacing marks it off, this is the final 2 days of 2025, even though we're not even midway through the month of December. At the checkered flag now here in qualifying with Jake Williams currently holding on to the quick time. Dmitry Lukanov still up there, up at the front with Yerkmani. A little bit surprising to find him down in P8, but let's see what sort of lap time he can clock in his final attempt. Not looking good through the first 2 sectors, so let's see if he can pull it out in sector 3. He will not, so he's going to remain in 8th. A little bit surprising to see the Masters racers farther down than usual.
Yeah, I noticed that I didn't see Jorg. He didn't have anybody in front of him, kind of giving him a little bit of a draft. And that's, like I said, there's not a lot here in these Formula Ford cars, but there's enough that if you're trailing a car over the course of a lap, you can pick up some time. So maybe just out solo qualifying. I know Chris Murakami was behind him. Obviously, that doesn't help Jorg any. Helps Chris a little bit, but yeah, it's just they didn't look like they were doing a lot of teamwork. Trying to get the lap times in, so he'll start a little bit lower down, but never count Jorg out. He's going to go 10 tenths for the entire race, and he'll work his way up front or crash himself trying. So that's going to be how it is for today. And obviously, nothing on the line. He's pretty much got the championship sewn up, so it's not like he's got to be up there and got to battle Antonio and Allen for every position possible today.
And you brought up a fantastic point talking about the draft in these Formula Fords. They're not nearly as strong as the Spec Racer Fords or the Formula Vs that we have here in the Weekend Warriors, but they surprisingly have a bit of a draft to them. It's not a lot of air that gets disturbed when these drivers drive around. It's pretty much the turbulence that you'd usually expect from a fruit fly, a gnat, or a mosquito, but it's just enough to create some good racing. And here at this track where the drivers are probably going to be spending about half the lap at flat out. So that's going to be a very fun thing to keep our eyes on throughout this race. It's going to be fun for us in the broadcast booth and pretty unnerving for the racers behind the wheel. But the draft-heavy races are always fun for us and absolutely horrifying for the drivers out there on the circuit. But we're about to head off into the final race of this season. And to get it all up and rolling, let's take a look at the final starting grid for Season 4 of 2025 here on the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. It's going to be Jake Williams, the driver from Wales, starting this race from the pole position. Dmitry Lukanov, the Ukrainian, the debut driver here this season, has really impressed. He's going to be lining up once again on the front row. Ian Anderson, with probably the strongest qualifying performance he has had this season, will line up in third, the sponsor of today's show, alongside Simon Ball, slotted in fourth. Jason Shen, in his return to Formula Ford action, will be in fifth. Arrow Gnome, off the back of a win last time out at Lebanon, is going to be starting in P6. Richard Harwood finds himself starting this race in seventh, next to Masters pole sitter of Mani. Chris Murakami will start this race in ninth, and rounding out your top 10 here for today will be Daniel Salmon.
Yeah, Alan DeGassa starts in P11 alongside Antonio Reese, so all Masters row 6. Kevin Adrian, Paul Jackson, there's the battle for second place in the Spec 2 category. Side by side there on row 7. Edgar Santinelli starts in 15th. Soren Garrett's good to see him back starting in 16th. Scott Russell in 17th. And Christopher Hopp rounds out your 18-car grid for today. Hey, quick shout out to Stevie Ray. Did notice he posted he was under the weather today, so feel better, Stevie. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we love you, Stevie. We'll look forward to hearing him for the Week 13 V Runoffs broadcast. I'll be here on an SMB. Just announced that we'll be running at Willow Springs for that. So that is going to be that's going to be pretty fun. I don't think I've gone to cover Willow Springs in the Weekend Warriors. I know you have, Charles.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're in for a treat. Willow Springs, with these cars, it's a fantastic track, and there's amazing racing that goes on in the Weekend Warriors anytime we go visit Willow Springs, so I am absolutely looking forward to it.
I'm trying to think now of the races that I've broadcasted at Willow Springs. There was one that I thought that I did, and then I remembered that I just watched it because at that point I had blown out my voice, which despite my schedule, I've only done about 2 times this year, and I'm on a good streak of doing that. I am hoping that doesn't happen between now and the end of the year, and I make that an even 3. Yeah, it was for the Ray Esports Club Racing League back in the 2024-25 season, and you were in the commentary booth with our old pal and my XSLR colleague, Adam Thompson, not the one who runs out of gas, a different Thompson.
Okay. Yeah. So I know I've done a few there, and we've had some great races there. I remember some great finishes in the Spec Racer between, drivers like, Marco Pinero and an old timer, we'll call her an old timer, Megan Overstreet, put on a show there one season. Great, fantastic finish coming out of the final quarter, cars going everywhere. And Megan with a great move. So it was, great racing there. So once again, it's not to overshadow what we're going to do here today, but that V runoffs next week is going to be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be super, super fun. Got the Vs, the FFs, and the SRFs running out there on the racetrack. That'll be a whole lot of fun. And it's going to be Christmas themed as well. So I'm going to petition with either Mr. Joshua Wilkie, or I'll just do it myself if I have to make the thumbnail. I will put in a Christmas themed cactus onto the thumbnail on SMB. And you can hold me to that. You can either hold me or Josh to that. And if I do make the thumbnail and I forget it, I will let you know that Josh was the one that made the thumbnail instead of me. But looking forward to this race. It's going to be a heck of a lot of fun to round off this season. A maybe terrifying day behind the wheel for these races, but certainly exciting one for us here in the broadcast booth. Well, once again, thank your third place starter, Van Anderson, for making the show possible, as well as the rest of the sponsors that we have had throughout this season of Formula Ford action. There were some points in time throughout this season where we weren't too sure whether or not we'd be able to cover all of the action this year, but thankfully we have, and really speaks volumes. The wonderful community and the Weekend Warriors have 2 season finales here, and first up, we have got these FFs waiting for that pace car to peel down pit lane, put the field in the hands of our front row sitters. A green flag flies and the drivers are on their way. Simon Ball with a fantastic start, gonna catch Dmitry Lukanov napping at the lights, and he may try and get a move done into turn number 1. Covering off there is Jake Williams. Now it's Ball and Anderson side by side off through turn number 1. Drivers fanning out 3, nearly 4 wide, a little bit farther in the back as they head their way to 1 into the S's. This is a time where everybody wants to pounce. The game of leapfrog about to begin.
Yeah, you got to be very careful on this first lap through the S's. It's just so easy to get tangled up with another car, and then half the field's gone. Looks like we're through safely, so great job by everybody getting through there for the first time as we head down into the bus stop.
And now for the first time through Terror Corner, who's going to get through clean? It looks like just about everybody does. I speak before everybody goes through the turn. They all manage to work it just fine. That is absolutely fantastic. Heading our way through the carousel, though, about to get spat onto this back flat out blast of this racetrack that makes up the configuration that we are running here today. It's been a smooth start for Jake Williams, a great start for Simon Ball, as well as Jason Shen. After taking about a month off of Weekend Warriors competition, he's solidly running in the top 5. Just got a move put on him by Ian Anderson, but still a good start for Jason Shen in his Weekend Warriors return.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason's having a good start to the race, already up a position into 4th. And Dmitry Lukanov, not so much, down 2 positions down 3 positions, into 5th place. So not a great start for Ian or for Dmitry. So I'm getting kind of swamped a little bit there at the start, and just couldn't get the momentum going in the car. So he's got a little bit of work to do to try and make up a couple of positions as they funnel out turn 1 again, and then into the S's for the next round. Still straight line. I mean, it's nose to tail pretty much through the first 75% of the field.
I wonder if we will have some side-by-side battling flaring up at the front, though we certainly are in the mid-pack. Look at that field. Richard Harwood in the midst of a Hornet's Nest. Aero Gnome trying to get a move done on Dmitry Lukanov. Contact made. That's Salmon into the wall. He hits it big time with the front nose cone. He moves away from the accident. Looks like all the wheels are still bolted onto that car. The car isn't crabbing down the straightaway as that is Kevin Adrian nearly chasing his own tail off the track. Ian Anderson also got involved in that drama as well. He's got a meatball flag. The both of them have towed back to the pits right as we were talking about lap 1 being the source of contention, everybody getting through clean. Lap 2, surprisingly so, being the point of drama.
Yeah, I saw that, and I'm just speculating, but it kind of looked like it was maybe as we're going to get a replay here, but it looks like just too hard on the brakes for Zippy there as he was heading down into the bus stop. Oh, and maybe a little tap from behind as well. So, yeah, a little tap from behind, and that was actually what spun him around. I was thinking maybe it was maybe brake lock up along with maybe a diff spin, but that was absolutely just contact.
Oh, golly, it looked like the red mist descended on just about everybody, because in the midst of all that, I believe it was Soren Garrett who came barreling in like a bat out of hell. We'll see this from Adrian's perspective. Yeah, oh boy, I think there was actually contact made there. Yeah, you can see that car's already broken off. I was wondering exactly why Kevin Adrian locked it up and nearly hit the fence. It turns out he did, but he was hit beforehand. Let's take a look at this with Salmon. As actually, no, we'll follow Kevin Adrian, his whole perspective in this, because there you can see the moment from Salmon. He goes off the circuit, and there's Garrett's carrying on the same line. Contact is made, and Garrett's nearly fired off into Paul Jackson as well.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been we've been bad. We're going to look here from Ian Anderson's cars. We're headed down the straightaway into the bus stop, and we'll just keep an eye on him. He's going to be center of your screen there as we turn through, and there's the iron blue car. Just carry too much speed, and once he hit the that inside curb there, obviously you can't brake if your wheels aren't touching the ground. So he just kind of slides it into the barrier, and that car's broken as well. So that's going to be it's going to be a tough road for Kevin Adrian. He's back in the pits. He's out of the pit, so he's got his fast repair. He needs to just hope that he can make up. Not necessarily make up time, but he's one position behind Paul Jackson, and that is the two cars that are battling for P2 and Spec 2. And I'm not saying he's going to be wishing for a mistake, but he's hoping that he doesn't get caught up with anybody else's drama as we see them now as Anderson makes his way around.
That was three wide racing going on there with Aero Gnome trying to get a move done on Dmitry Lukhanov, and that battling is still flaring up between your race winner 1 week ago at Led and On in his iRacing return. We thought it was just his Weekend Warriors return, but no, it was his iRacing return altogether. He's come back with a vengeance, holding on to P4 at the current moment as Dmitry Lukhanov trying to fight back side by side to turn number 6, and Lukhanov going to hold on to that P4 spot. Lukhanov does have a pretty big advantage in that Spec 2 category in terms of position. You have to go back to Edgar Sancinelli to find your next Spec 2 competitor, and he's being tailed by Paul Jackson and Daniel Salmon, both involved in that incident a bit earlier. Kevin Adrian ran into that difficulty, and Christopher Hopp did not take the start along with Scott Russell. So I think Dmitry Lukhanov getting a taste of what it may be like for him to be running in Spec 1 next year.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with the likes of Aero Gnome, who is, as we get into some more 2-wide action through the S's here, and Dimitri and Aero going at it. And, as far as racers go, Aero is very, very quick in all these cars. I've covered him quite a bit. It's good to see him back on the track. And, he is, wonderfully, wonderfully good in these cars. He knows exactly how to drive them. And so Lukhanov is going to have his hands full there because he's got a very experienced guy that he's battling with. And so, from Lukhanov's standpoint, good chance to learn a few things while you're out there on the track.
Yeah, I'm sure we're probably going to see a lot of these drivers return for either part-time or full-time campaigns in Season 1 of 2026, getting farther along into the wintertime and hoping that we'll see some fantastic competition come time for the start of the brand new season and the brand new year. Still seeing some fantastic competition out there on the racetrack. This is Chris Murakami, who's leading a bit of a train with himself. Alan Degassis, his fellow Masters competitor, right behind, and Edgar Sancinelli right in tow as well. So this battling flaring on at the present moment on this circuit. We'll have to see how all of this goes on with these racers. Do want to mention the fact that it looks like there's a championship battle really flaring up between Antonio Reese and Alan Degassis right now. Antonio holding on to the spot over Alan, who's had a pretty all-right season. I'm not sure if he's in championship contention in any of the Weekend Warriors categories that he's running in the Vs or the FFs, but still pretty darn good season for Alan all around.
Yeah, I think he's in a good position, kind of like the race I watched this morning. He's got enough of a gap that two positions behind is probably not going to hurt him. So he's just doing what he needs to do to secure that P2. Obviously, not going to. I think if just from doing the math in my head, I don't think either Dmitry Lukhanov nor Jorg Monty needed to really run this race, and I think they're pretty much a lock, kind of as well as Mikey Pollard, who's not here today. So Jake, Simon, and Jason are going to get up there and battle for the overall and pick up a few points and a little bit of bragging rights.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Was that a subtle F1 reference that I heard there, or is there another race that was going on this?
Subtle F1 reference.
Yeah, there you go. I figured that's what it was, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, there's so much racing going on at any given point in time, and with my broadcast, I usually don't know what's going on with the series that I used to follow, so it shows you how much of a race fan I really am. And just quick spoilers pending. I'm absolutely shocked that they put Mika Hakkinen in third McLaren, and he tried to take at Max, and in the process accidentally wiped out Sonoda, and then Franco Colapinto won. That is dumbfounded to me. Congratulations on Colapinto for winning the championship, though. As here comes Chris Murakami and Alan DeGassis going side by side. This is a battle for P9 at the current moment, as look at that. Now it's Edgar Sancinelli trying to get involved in that battle, and Ian Anderson right in tow. He's one lap down, so it's 3 cars battling for position, 4 cars battling for track position, though.
Yeah, still a nice little battle there, and yeah, not much you can do. You know, obviously we've got some really good drivers in here, and there's really no huge gaps except for the cars that have already received damage and had to go in and pit. So you're not going to make up a lap on anybody out here today unless you're you know, some guy named Max that decides to jump into the race. Otherwise, no, you're not gaining a lap. You know, but obviously, you know, the guys that pitted already that took damage, I think it was too early even to try and run it to the end of the race. So they're going to have to come back in and probably take a little bit of fuel. So they'll have to take a second pit stop, which is just going to make it that much worse of a day for them.
Yes, and as we see these racers trying to settle into a groove, we've seen so much drama, even though we aren't even at a quarter of the way through this race. We officially are now with 10 minutes on the board. Side-by-side battling going on in this battle we have on screen right now. I think I saw the battling flaring up between Sancinelli, Murakami, and DeGassis. I think they were briefly 3 wide as they headed their way onto the back straightaway. Sancinelli now holding on to P9 overall, P2 of the Spec 2 racers. Now the Pied Piper of this pack.
Yeah, absolutely. A nice little battle going on there between those. And, of course, we've got Jorg Monty now up to the lead position here in the second pack over Lukanov, Nom, Harwood, and Reese. So it's so nice little 5-car battle there. And they're just using the draft. You see them swapping the position here and there as they're getting on these straightaways. And then we've got this lead group, obviously, Williams, Ball, and Chin, who've kind of set themselves out as Lukanov takes the lead now coming down the front straight. So he's going to make his way up to the front of that second group, sit 3.5 seconds back behind that lead pack. So not really anything they can do at this point in time. We're going to probably ride around, probably doing some fuel saving until we get ready for our pit stops.
Yeah, so I think many racers throughout this field are looking for this race to settle into a groove. The real question is, will they be able to do that? I personally have my doubts. Jorg Monty going to be able to jump in front of Lukanov and Aero Gnome, who are still side by side, the both of them sliding all through the inner loop. That could have ended in catastrophe. It has not been a good start for Dmitry Lukanov after he was, as I said at the time, really caught napping at the lights when that green flag came out. Jake Williams jumped in front of him. Simon Ball was able to get 2 moves done in 1 shot. Jason Chen got off to a flyer. Jorg Monty up 4 spots, and now Aeronome going to jump in front of Dmitry Lukanov as well, making it 4 spots that he has dropped down since he dropped the green flag. As Jake Williams down in pit lane, that is bewildering, but he's not alone. Aeronome going to join him.
Wow. All right. So we got a couple of guys taking the undercut strategy, the 12-minute mark of the race. So they should be able to get home on their fuel and they get the stop done. So we'll see, make sure nobody gets a penalty, nobody makes a mistake. Sancinelli also into the pits as well. So dropping out of that second pack or that third pack to come into the pits to take his. We'll watch their stop times, and that gives us a benchmark for the remainder of the race. We'll see what the rest of these guys have to do. Is now we've just got the 2 cars up front, and we've got the 4 cars that are in chase. And I don't know, maybe that gives those guys in that second pack a chance to maybe make up a little bit of time here.
I certainly would not rule it out. If you battle too hard for too long, it will just bring everybody in together as a small little family reunion, but with a bit more battling than you usually would have in something like that. Imagine a family reunion ending in a duel. That would be fascinating. I think that happened in medieval times, but certainly not nowadays. But with that 3.8 second gap between Jorg Monty and the top 2, that's currently Jason Chen and Simon Ball, I wonder if that battle will close up, because we know that Jorg Monty doesn't really care for fuel saving, so I don't think he's going to be taking it easy. You can see right now he's actually weaving like a madman on the start-finish straightaway, trying to break up the draft with Lukanov and Richard Harwood right behind, along with Antonio Reese. So That would be something to keep our eyes on throughout the rest of this stint. Whether or not the drivers going side by side up at the front will allow these racers to catch up. I think they were briefly side by side. Jason Chen now holding on to that top spot over Simon Ball. I think they tried to go side by side all through the S's and learned very quickly how claustrophobic it can be doing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very tight confines. If Lukinov looking to the inside and wants to get back around Jorg to take that lead position, and has done so successfully, as we see this group here with Murakami and DeGassis fighting side by side with Zippy Salmon in tow. Is going to be able to get DeGassis taking that position, and Chris trying to fight back, not going to be able to do it. Zippy looking to the outside, not really anything going there, so DeGassis moves up into 7th position, so he's 1 spot behind Antonio in order there, and Antonio is oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you very much, Guido. That is Ian Anderson lap down in the Iron Brew car. Should have known that. And Zippy is a little bit further back in a lap down. And we got Simon Ball in the pits. So now we've got Jason Chen out to the front by himself. That really does going to put a problem on Jason there, because now he's got 4 cars that can run in a train. It's going to be, I think that's going to bring that pack very, very close to the front of the grid here in a hurry.
Yeah, Jason Chen, I wouldn't say got hung out to dry, but that's not going to help out his cause at all. That 3.4-second gap can very easily drop down. No sort of draft assistance, so in terms of straight line speed, he's going to be a bit on the slower end compared to everybody else right behind. At this point, they may decide to play a game of tactical leapfrog, which may seem like a joke term, but it really works in these draft-heavy races, as we're seeing a little bit of that right now. Alan DeGassis is jumping in front of Chris Murakami. Murakami saying, you know what, I'm just going to let you have that spot. No need to worry about that right there. So I think that could be a winning strategy, at least in terms of getting involved in that battle for the top spots if they do want to find themselves in a situation like that come down for the very end. I do want to say, though, the drivers that have come down pit lane in the form open, Jason Chen coming into the pitch, trying to break up my bit of color there. The drivers who already came down pit lane do find themselves in a good little window of opportunity.
Yeah, as we see, as you said, Jason coming into the pit, Simon Ball with a slowdown. He did have a quicker stop in the pits by about a second and a half over that first group that came in, but he came out behind Jake Williams. So obviously the undercut strategy seems like it might work. So I think maybe Jason Chen saw the writing on the wall and said, maybe I need to go ahead and come in. He lost about 3/10 on that lap to the group behind, and he said, I probably want to get back there with those guys and battle with them and make sure that I don't get undercut sitting out there by myself. So probably a smart strategy on Jason's part as he comes out right behind Simon Ball, or right even with Simon Ball. They're just basically about the same spot on the track.
Yeah, it's a little bit screwy whenever we see the drivers come out of the pits, because you couldn't even see anybody else. But yeah, they were pretty much right on top of each other. It's just that Simon Ball was pretty much in Timbuktu in the runoff area. A slowdown penalty for Paul Jackson. That's going to bounce him out of the battle that he was involved in a little bit earlier. I do want to touch tabs on the other drivers that have come down pit lane already, as Dmitry Lukinov, I think, had a bunny hop as he headed his way out of turn number 6, hit that outside curb. I've been seeing that car of Lukinov really get squirrely over the curbs. I wonder what the ride height is looking like in that car, because I've seen him hop, skip, and a jump out of turn number 6 now. I saw it happen for turn number 1. That's not going to do his chassis any favors.
It's not. I think it's just the nature of that curb out there. I think there's ways that you can approach it, that you can use it successfully, and then there's some ways that it's just kind of like what would be a good one? The exit curb at Puhan and Spa is, if you take that one and you hit the end of the curb, it just basically launches your car. I think that curb out there on the outside of turn 10 or turn 6 in this configuration is pretty much the same way to that.
Another thing to raise, kind of talking about the curbs here, is the fact that in the iRacing update, they were changed to be 3D curbs. So all the serrations in the curb, you can feel that either through your steering wheel or, oh my God, that was Daniel Salmon with a hop, skip, and a jump. That's the first time that I think I've seen all 4 go up off the deck there. So,
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Salmon nearly being with the birds.
Yeah, and that is the difference in that new curve is you see things like that happening. Just like I said, just if you catch it wrong, it just launches the car, and it is not only it's just stressful because you're trying to catch the car and get it lined up for the next corner, but it obviously you're feeling all that through the force feedback, and it is quite unnerving.
Oh, that's the first driver that I think I've seen get all four up off the deck, heading their way through the bus stop, and not end up in the fence. I am staggered. So well held, Zippy. Well held indeed. Gotta look at this battling up in the front, though. These drivers who have decided to stay out, they're in it for the long haul. They're just going to do the usual strategy of pitting around the 30-minute mark. Everybody else who has come down pit lane, who were running up in the front in the form of Jake Williams, Simon Ball, Jason Chen, and Arrow Gnome. The gaps have actually spread out a bit there, and I do want to touch, I do want to touch on the other times that those racers spent down in pit lane, because Arrow Gnome was at 17.1 seconds in his pit stall. Jason Shen was at 16.7. Simon Ball, who's currently side by side with 15.8, so very short for him. Jake Williams at 17.2, but he was able to make it work. So that's the reason why Arrow Gnome has dropped out of this battle a little bit, was on the back foot to start off with a farther down starting spot compared to Williams. However, Ball did not do himself too many favors with a pretty lengthy run down pit lane.
Oops, somebody's coming in. That's Chris Murakami coming into the pits. Well, we talked about this as the Arrow was in that second group, so it was, I think, a 3.5 second gap between the top three and then that next group of five. So he's actually closed it down just a little bit, but obviously, Simon and Jason can't do a lot of battling. They basically just got to leapfrog each other and then get back in line as we've got, as they're working their way around the start-finish straight there. And they've got to stay there and stay in line. Oh, we got an issue for Jason Chen. He's dropped off. What's going on with him?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what part of the racetrack that is. That's in turn number 1, and he's out of it. He's had to tow back to pit lane. That is very far off the track. I wonder, did he maybe drop it on entry, or is there some sort of hardware failure going on here? Already wiggling a little bit down the start-finish straightaway. Looking odd, looking peculiar. Yeah, I wonder if he maybe had a pedal failure there. No brakes.
Yeah, something didn't look right, and yeah, he managed to get it off the track without compromising anybody else. So nice job for that. But yeah, it just looked like that was something that's happening at Jason's location there, whether it be a hardware issue or some other external factor. But obviously got the car off the track and towed it back to the pits safely. So he's done for today, unfortunately. And we see Zippy in the pits again, Daniel Salmon in the pits for his, I think this is his second stop. Or no, this is his first stop. He's just a little bit further down. So, okay, well, so I'm here the second stop. So, okay, well, Guido, I had it then. So anyway, he's in the pits, running P10 currently, and he's got Sancinelli, Murakami, Anderson coming around, who have already made their stops. So we'll see where he comes out in relation to them. But we've still got this nice 4-car battle up here at the front, and we've got Richard Hartwood now up into P2. Haven't mentioned him much today, but he's now up there running behind Lukanov with our longtime battle buddies back there, Monty and Reese, closing off this top 4.
A slowdown penalty briefly popping up for Paul Jackson, currently slotted in 6th. In all of this drama that we have seen thus far, I wonder how it's all going to work out for these racers in this train, because as much as the drivers who came down pit lane do have the advantage of being able to run by themselves and not have to worry about any drivers applying pressure to them or having any drivers to apply pressure to, these drivers have had the benefit of the draft, and they're not really attacking each other too much, and whenever there is a move, it looks rather tactical. Yeah, I've said this a lot throughout this season of Formula Ford Weekend Warriors action, and certainly recently on these Weekend Warriors shows, just generally speaking, yet to have a non-spec 1 driver win thus far this season. Maybe today could be the day, as Monty now in front of Dmitry Lukanov. A quick time from Jake Williams. Oh, golly.
he just at the fastest lap of the race, and he just gave Ron heart failure. All in the span of a few seconds there, as he's using every bit of the track to maximize his pace. I don't know. I think these guys up front, I think they're running a really good pace, but Jake is really on it, and he's about 2/10 faster than the lead group last lap. So he's got himself wound up pretty well, and I don't know these guys are going to be able to hang with him as he's kind of stretched that gap out even over Simon Ball to almost 3 seconds, and then another 3 seconds or so back to Aeronome. So he's kind of sitting in a good seat there. But now Monty with the fastest lap of the race, 1:18.66. So. Who knows? You never can tell. We'll have to see what this group does on their pit stops. Obviously, they're going to be able to take a shorter stop than the guys up front. Won't have to take nearly as much fuel. So we'll see how they manage to make this all work.
And Monty that time following up a quick lap with not scraping and dusting the safer barrier there, which is the reason why I've had to go and take an aspirin after that moment, because that was I thought Jake Williams was about to hit the fence there. The problem is with these Formula Fords, and something that I've experienced whenever I do drive them, is you can sometimes find yourself in the car chase, as I like to call it, where it happened a lot in my kart as well. And, it's definitely a bad comparison. A Formula Ford on iRacing is a well-tuned Formula car, and my shifter kart was a 2002 chassis with a 1999 motor, a 2004 driver who is way too heavy for the class. Your Monty got come down pit lane in the meantime, though, right as I go off on my little yarn. Oh, Dmitry Lukanov got follow in suit. That I don't think that would get marked off as an unsafe pit entry, at least here by iRacing. No, it will. It will for Monty. He sped. He had to have speed there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's speeding on pit entry, and that's it's a shame. Jorg is once again 10 out of 10 from the time the green flag dropped until the checker. And sometimes he will make a mistake on his pit lane. Not normally a pit speeding, but a lot of times it's just maybe fuel calculations. He doesn't put as much effort into that as some of the other drivers do. So sometimes he's a little bit slow on his pit stops, but obviously that is a pretty bad mistake. That's 40 seconds that he's got to sit there and wait, and that's going to let Lukanov go out on his own. DeGassis come in and probably get out before Jorg can go, and you see that he's already on pit exit, and so Jorg is still sitting there, and he'll eventually get that penalty served, and he'll be able to come out. But obviously 40 seconds, he can't work on the car, can't add fuel, can't do anything until that penalty is done, or vice versa. Either he can get it all serviced and then has to sit. Either way, as we see now, Antonio Reese coming in. So last car to come into the pits are Richard Harwood and Paul Jackson. Those are the last two drivers who have yet to pit.
Yeah, so pretty much everybody has gotten their pit stops taken care of. It's worked well for Jake Williams as he's holding on to P4, what would be the net race lead, unless one of the drivers farther up the road has a 2-second long pit stop, which I don't think you could do even if you are the greatest fuel-saving driver in the world. Taking a look at a replay, in fact, of something that may have just gone down involving Daniel Salmon and Alan DeGassis. Side-by-side racing, hang down the back straightaway, and DeGassis. Oh, what in the where in the world was he going there? Oh, that was bewildering. I think it's the right way to sum it up.
It was kind of bewildering. And yeah, just like it almost like the draft as Zippy went by, almost kind of pulled Alan over to the other side of the track. But that was once again kind of strange, but no harm, no foul. I don't know, unless there was maybe a net code in there somewhere that maybe got that we didn't quite see. But either way, everybody's still racing, and that's the important thing. As everybody's all pitted now. Both Reese and Harwood came in. I'm sorry, not Jackson came in the last time by. So Richard Harwood, the last car out there yet to pit, and so he's got a nice gap back to P2, who is Jake Williams. But it's 27 seconds, and it's dropping. Seemingly every corner, it looks like it's dropping a little bit more.
As we just saw a near collision with Chris Murakami and Edgar Sancinelli as they head their way onto the back straightaway. 3 drivers from 3 separate classes involved in this 3-car group, as it isn't a battle entirely for spots, as the tail of that pack is Jason Shen, 1 lap down after the incident and moment that we saw a little bit earlier on. Still not exactly sure what happened there. I haven't seen any confirmation, albeit my eyes may be deceiving me, but he's out there on the racetrack once again, slotted in P14. We'll see if he can get a move done on Ian Anderson, who's currently in the pits himself. But to wrap up on the point that I was raising, talking about what I like to call the chase in these cars, is you're going to have the front end and the rear end kind of chasing each other's tails whenever you overcook it into a turn. The rear end's got to step out, the front end's got to try and respond when you counter steer, then the rear end's got to go farther, the front end's got to respond, and you just chase yourself all the way into the fence. And that's what we saw a few moments ago nearly happened with this man, Jake Williams, after saying a quick lap. Richard Harwood, meanwhile, has now come down pit lane for his one and only stop with 10.5 minutes left to go from this season.
Yeah, absolutely. As Harwood is in the pits, he's still trundling down pit road, hasn't hit his box yet. And so we see the little jump there by Williams as he carries all the way to the end of that curb and then kind of crosses over at the very last second. I think that's to prevent himself from getting an off track there. And Harwood is in his box and stopped and getting his service. And he is going to get passed by, it looks like Williams, Ball, Gnome. See if Lukanoff gets him as well on pit exit. It's kind of a iffy thing to be looking at there, as there is that's Aero Gnome coming through. And there is Harwood just in front of Lukanoff and Reese. So he's going to pop back out in P4, about 4-second gap up to third, and it got about a second and a half back to P5 and 6.
So it looks like things have just about spread out there on the racetrack. We do have some battles of note with Daniel Salmon and Alan DeGassis, Dmitry Lukanoff and Antonio Reese, and Chris Murakami and Edgar Sancinelli. You can see the gaps in that absolutely amazing best battles graphic that Guido in the production truck made it all on his own. That was that was pretty good. I think we introduced that a little bit earlier on in this season. I gotta say that's a very nice addition on these shows as well. This is a good idea as to what's still going on out there on the racetrack, even with the championship battles just about squared away and all the pit stops taken care of with about 9 minutes left to go on the clock from this season. Everybody's still got to give us some battles to talk about come time for the end.
Yeah, still got a few battles on the track, and it's heating up as we're down to less than 9 minutes to go here in this race. But we do have a pretty good gap out there for the lead. Jake Williams is kind of set sail, got about 2.5 seconds over Ball. And then Gnome in tow there about 2 seconds back, 2 seconds further back, I should say. But, it doesn't look like it's that far on the track. They look like they're fairly close together. But it just goes to show you the speed or lack thereof these cars are driving. Because I believe that's Harwood out there, the 28 car. Yep, it is in front of Lukanoff and Reese, and that is the closest battle on the track right now for 3 cars. We do have a closer one back there with Murakami and Sancinelli, as well as Ian Anderson and Jason Chin back there. Even though they're at the tail end of the pack, they are still battling for that 13th position.
So keep an eye on these battles as they continue to intensify. Looking at this one with Daniel Salmon and Alan DeGassis. Now, after that odd moment, I wonder exactly how this is all going to work out. I'm thinking now, was there maybe an oddly served slowdown? Whatever the case may be. Looking at side-by-side racing, that's Chris Murakami, the lap-down car of Ian Anderson. It's actually the battle between Anderson and Shen as the battling is going on between Chris Murakami and Edgar Sancinelli. It's basically like a Russian nesting doll, both Formula 4 battling.
Yeah, two battles, but separated by a lap. So, yeah, just really tight battling there, and the cars are trying to keep themselves off each other and still fight the guy they're competing against for position as Lukanoff sets the fastest lap of the race and then just passes Harwood for P4. So still side by side as they're working their way out of the S's and down this little short straight into the bus stop with who's that in tow there? Is that the nice Antonio Reese in tow? So this is that 3-car battle, and you see that basically not much between them.
Yeah, so this battle for fourth is probably the biggest one in terms of strength of numbers, and the biggest one with the most amount of implications as well. Currently, your P4 runner, overall P4 runner, as a result in Spec 1, along with your leaders in Spec 2 and Masters, respectively. I don't think this is a race that Dmitry Lukinov had in mind to cap off what has been an amazing season, where he's come oh so close at many points in time to becoming an overall race winner. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of him come time for the start of Season 1 of 2026. Likely in the Spec 1 category, where I feel like it's only a matter of time before the Ukrainian is going to bag his very first win. Just got moved on Richard Harwood to jump his way up in a fourth, so now going to have some separation between your Spec 2 and your Masters leader of Reese.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty much a done deal that Lukinov will get promoted up to that Spec 1 class, and we've seen issues as drivers have really great seasons in Spec 2, and then once they get to Spec 1 and they're battling with the guys they were battling with before, that it just seems like that they drop a little bit. They're not quite running up at the top of the field, but they are running in top 10. Jason had that issue, I think, go back another season before Jason Chen to the driver whose name I cannot remember right now. It's just the brain is non-functional at this point, but we've seen it time and time again where that graduation up to the top rung of the ladder, it gives you a little bit of a drop in your performance for that next season. Ooh, once again flirting with that curb there coming out of that corner is you saw Harwood there just kind of dancing around as the car got jumped over the curbs and trying to get it settled back down.
God, every single time I see these racers run over the curbs, it is... I talk about this feeling a lot. It makes me feel like I'm being electrocuted. Just the sense of unnerving dread and anxiety seeing these drivers whack over the curbs. It reminds me of watching a shifter kart race when everybody is just slamming over the curbs and destroying their spines in the process. We've already seen really both of the drivers in this battle we've got on screen right now between Daniel Salmon and Alan DeGassis be worried about the curbs, more so for Daniel Salmon, as holy cow, Jason Chen getting so close to the back of DeGassis as they headed their way out of 1 through 2 in the uphill S's right now. I wonder if it's advantage Salmon or advantage DeGassis in this. And look at Chris Murakami, about 0.7 of a second back, so he's going to look to try and get involved in all this. Still have this Russian Nesting goal battles. Ian Anderson and Jason Chen going to make a 3 wide with Salmon in the middle. Don't usually see lap cars treat the drivers that are 1 lap in front of them as if they're their boss, but look at that, holy cow. Oh man, this is I feel like something's gonna boil over here soon as
yeah,
another hard sack for me.
Yeah, Anderson and Chen splitting that group up and just going on both sides, getting through, getting clear, but still not able to get away as we see Jason get a little bit of a gap as the cars are fighting side by side behind him. Now he's going to get a good toe, and he's going to give that to Anderson down as there's contact there. Looked like there was a little bit of contact there between Murakami and DeGassis coming down, or sorry, not DeGassis, that other car of there was definitely some contact there as those cars are starting to get really racy here with about 3 minutes left.
This is going to end in catastrophe. I just have a bad, unnerving feeling about this, as that is close to side-to-side contact between Salmon and Murakami. Look at Ian Anderson involved in this, and Alan DeGassis, a rear gunner. Many times in the Formula V's, DeGassis is usually the one that's at the epicenter of some drama, and he just blows everybody's doors off as if it's nobody's business. Murakami clips the grass. That could have ended in catastrophe as he turned off, heading down into the bus stop. Yeah, I was going to make this joke before we went live today, Charles, that we are probably going to see a step-by-step guide of how to launch a Formula Ford car over a blue Armco barrier, Watkins Glen. We haven't seen it yet, but we still have about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we still got a couple of minutes left, and I think we're going to be the white flag. Should be next time through, so we're on our penultimate lap here with Williams and Ball and Nome. This battle up here with Lukinov, Harwood and Reese still there. They're stretched out just a little bit, but that'll tighten up. As we get a little bit further into the lap, this draft starts kicking in to pull the cars back together. As we still see this battle, and it's Anderson, the kind of the loser there, as Chen was able to get through and get clear of this 3-car battle between Salmon, Murakami, and DeGassis, and Anderson, unable to get through there, is just kind of sitting back there and trying to wait his turn to try and get through this group, and he's going to have a tough road to try and get back up to Chen to battle.
I believe Jake Williams is going to be getting a white flag this time by. So one more lap of racing action from this season, and Jake Williams going to look to try and cap off what's been a rather faultless day behind the wheel for that leading driver. Still setting in some good lap times, even quicker than Simon Ball, who just set his personal best lap of the race last time by. He's on track for P2 with Aeronome holding on to third. Looking at this battle, though, this is still really, really unnerving. Look at Chris Murakami sticking a 3-1, running off into the dirt as they head their way through the short chute onto the back end of the circuit right now. Murakami gets a 2-for-1 deal to jump his way in front of both Alan DeGassis and Daniel Salmon. That's P7 for him, but the battling is still far from done. Salmon now going to try and fight back to Murakami. All these racers have scythed their way through the field compared to where they once were. They're not alone. Look at that. Edgar Sancinelli, who's up 5 spots from where he started, looking to get involved in this fight as well. And Anderson going to pull out saying, nope, I'm going to dive out of this. I don't want anything to do with this, and I can't necessarily blame him at all. Nope. Jake Williams a few moments away from victory as everything is going on all around the racetrack at the exact same time. Antonio Reese and Richard Harwood, I think, briefly swapped spots at the start of this lap, as Salmon and Murakami looking to follow in course as they head their way out of the S's onto the back straightaway. Looking at that right in tow, side by side battling going to go on right behind. Meanwhile, Jake Williams going to win this race by 2.7 seconds over Simon Ball to secure another victory here this season. Meanwhile, up at the front of this battle, Daniel Salmon and Chris Murakami were side by side, but it's gone the way of Salmon. Meanwhile, behind, DeGassis was able to shake off the challenge from Edgar Sancinelli like a bad case of the fleas. They still have this long run between the carousel and the second to last turn, and Salmon enters in with a huge running wide moment. DeGassis, meanwhile, going to try to do to Murakami what Murakami did to him. Really close quarter stuff. Dive down, crowded down on the inside, through into turn 6. Murakami hops a berm. That's going to take him out of this fight. It looks like it's now going to be him and Sancinelli side by side for the final 2 spots inside the top 10. Meanwhile, Daniel Salmon going to finish in front of Alan DeGassis by about 1.5 tenths at the very end, and now we can finally breathe.
Woo! Great battle by those guys, and it was a shout out to Ian Anderson for the good sportsmanship. He saw Sancinelli behind him battling for in that group for that 7th position, and said, "I'm just going to get out of the way. I'm not going to be able to get back up to Jason Chen to fight with him. So I'm just going to back off and let Sancinelli get in there and see what he can do." And it put a really nice 4-car battle there at the end of the race, and some great driving, side-by-side racing all over this track, and that's what we like to see. In no instance, we had a couple early, but for the most part, really clean race and really fun to watch.
Yeah, I know. I was fully expecting to have to read out some sort of like on-air iRacing eulogy, but no, I did not. Everybody kept it rather smooth outside of a couple of bits of drama every now and then. But hey, their driver's going for a victory. You're going to have some sort of drama break out here. But in upstate New York, it was a fun day of racing action to round off what has been a tremendous season of Formula 4 to Weekend Warriors action. So let's take a look at the final results page from this season and break down the gaps. And your winners, Jake Williams is your winner here today at Watkins Glen, winning over Simon Ball by 2.6 seconds. Did not get the fast lap of the race as Antonio Reese pipped him right towards the end, but it was still a pretty good season from Jake Williams in the few times that he showed up. I believe, if my memory recalls me correctly, it was Brands Hatch a little bit earlier on in the championship where he scored his other win. So Jake Williams, just about 2 times that he showed up, he won in both races. Would love to see him try and run in this series full time. Same with Simon Ball, who put in some good results throughout this season. He ends up in P2, right in front of your race winner last time out of Aeronome. Dmitry Lukanov wins once again in the Spec 2 category, and that, let me do the quick math in my head. that will work out to be his 9th Spec 2 win this season. Fantastic stuff from Lukanov. Antonio Reese wins it in the Masters category. That is his first Masters win since Oran Park a couple of weeks ago, and that is only his 3rd Masters win here in this Formula Ford season. But he was quick at many points in time, and I believe he did get the nose out ahead of Alan Degassis in that Masters Championship battle. Richard Harwood finishes in P6 with Daniel Salmon right in tow in 7th. He finishes just barely in front of Alan Degassis, who's barely in front of Chris Murakami, who's barely in front of Edgar Sancinelli, completing your top 10.
Yeah, Paul Jackson, I believe, captures P2 in the Spec 2 category, finishing 11th today. York Monty finishing in 12th. Jason Chen finished. Paul Jackson was P4. And P4 today, I think, but P2 in the championship, I think. Yeah, so York Monty finishing in 12th, Jason Chen 13th, Ian Anderson in 14th, Kevin Adrian rounds out 15th, Soren Garrett's in 16th, Scott Russell and Christopher Hopp did not take the start, so will be classified in 17th and 18th.
So those are your results today for the final race of the Formula Ford Weekend Warrior Season. I want to once again thank Ian Anderson for sponsoring this broadcast, all of the sponsors that we had from this Formula Ford season, and also to all of you tuning into these broadcasts week in and week out. It's once again been my personal honor, along with all of us, to bring this season of action from start to finish. And it looks like we have just one driver looking to have a chat with us here at the moment, and I think I'll drag him in to have a conversation. It's Antonio Reese now joining us in the broadcast booth. Antonio, welcome in. Congratulations on the Masters win. How was it out there?
You just catch me with my mouth. I'm just getting some snack.
Yeah. I'll give you a little bit of time to enjoy that
okay.
snack.
It's fine. Can you ask again? Sorry, I was a little bit
preoccupied. Don't worry, it's quite all right. I was having a turkey sandwich before I went live on this show. So it's your 3rd Masters win here in this season of Formula Ford action. How was the race here today?
Was all about draft. Just keep saving fuel, and I stay with Manny. We stayed together from the beginning until he get the black flag on the pit. And then from there, I was just alone. But we was working together. We was on the Discord, keeping in touch with each other. So we have a good time. But unfortunately, he get black flag. And Chris Murakami also was a bad start. And then we was all 3 of us on the Discord, chatting and speaking and racing.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate for the way that Jurg's race to go, but still worked out well for you. Your 3rd win this season. I want to ask you about your thoughts on this season of Weekend Warriors action, because you had some pretty good results throughout it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't participate in a couple of races because for one reason I didn't have the track, for other reason I was watching Formula 1 live, and so I skipped I don't know how many races, but yeah, other than that, it was really nice. Every race I participate was good fun, as always.
Yeah, we always like to have a good time in the Weekend Warriors, and glad to hear that you had a good time throughout this season, Antonio.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, though, a little bit later on, we're going to have the Spec Racer Ford finale. Are you going to be on track for that?
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I'm very pleased to be able to race the Spec next race.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty fun. I think we're running at Montreal, too, so that is going to be a pretty wacky way to end the season. But, Antonio, as usual, we'll let you give the thanks and shout-outs.
Yeah, to you guys for the broadcast, and for the guys watching, and for the drivers, and for the sponsor, I think Ian Anderson, and not last least, T-Ray.
Yeah, unfortunately, Stevie's unavailable here today, but Stevie, if you're tuning in, we love you, man. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for joining us here in the booth as well, Antonio. Congratulations on the win, and we'll see you on track a little bit later on.
Yeah, see you guys. Take care. Bye.
And that right there was Antonio Reese, our winner in the Masters category here today. And Charles, it also looks like we have Richard Harwood there in the booth. So I'll pass the mic off to you to have a chat with the driver who was a little bit under the radar, but still put together a pretty good race up one spot from where he started in P6.
Yeah, let's bring Richard in here and have a chat with him before we close this out. Richard, P6 today, one position higher than where you qualified, but you were in a pretty nice 5-car battle there, at least for the first half of the race, with some pretty fast racers. Richard, can you hear me? Richard, mic check.
I think we not sure if Richard's mic is working, so we'll give him just a couple of moments here to get that all squared away, so we can have a chat with him here at the end. Had a pretty good season as well, darn good finish, I believe, in the Spec 1 Championship. So I'll pass it back off here. Richard, you got a copy?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. We got you.
All right.
All right, I'll pass the mic back off to you, Charles.
All right, Richard.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Congratulations on your 6th place finish today. As I said, pretty good battle. You had a nice you were in a 5-car group with some pretty fast racers today.
Yeah, it was a nice group. Everyone's been very, very clean. We're all used to racing with each other. We're always quite similar places on the track most weeks, so we kind of trust each other a lot. Just different strategies in the group. Marnie really wanted to play leapfrog and just jump past every opportunity, and then expect that we would do the same on the next lap to kind of put each other along. But no one else was wanting to play that game with Marnie today, so we kind of all just sat behind, trying to save as much fuel as I possibly could anyway. But then still put in too much fuel. Got my fuel calcs all wrong, put in too much. So got a bit of a gap through the pit stops, but not enough to hold off Dimitri. He's too fast, so he came past. And yeah, good battle with Antonio on the last lap. But I think Antonio just pipped me on the line, but I haven't seen it back yet.
Yeah, it was very close indeed. There's almost nothing in it. So yeah, it was a great way to end the season. So overall, how do you think you've done? I think that you had a pretty good position in the championship. So feel good about your effort this season. Richard. Oh, we have lost Richard again. So I think we'll give him another minute or so to see if he can get back in here.
Those rascally tech problems.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. So once again, feel pretty good about your season overall.
Yeah, it's just nice and consistent for me this year. I think I did 10 of the 12 races, always finished pretty well. Never first, but always kind of in that lead pack or just behind it. Just being consistent, really, staying out of trouble. Had a lot of fun as always. It's a really good group of people to race with. I always enjoy watching the broadcast back, listening to your enthusiastic commentary. It's really great fun. So thanks for being here for us for this one. It's really, really great. And see you again next season. Maybe I might be switching to the spec order races maybe. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, Richard. Well, thank you very much for stopping in to chat with us. And if you've had any other thanks that you want to give out, we'll give you the opportunity. Otherwise, we'll let you go, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the spec racers next season.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
To everyone who's raced and to everyone who's sponsored, it's fantastic. So thanks so much, and see you next year.
All right, thank you very much, Richard. Appreciate it.
And that right there was Richard Harwood, our P6 finisher here in this race, and put together a pretty respectable season in the Spec 1 category. Speaking of, that's where this next driver is probably going to end up come time for the start of Season 1 of 2026, but that is not a bad thing at all because he put on some darn good drives throughout the season. Dimitri Lukanov now joining us here in the broadcast booth. Dimitri, welcome in. First off, congratulations on, I believe it's your 9th Spec 2 win throughout this season. How was it out there here at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I apologize about my English. well, not so perfect as yours. But yeah, this race was awesome, cool battle with Richard and Antonio and York, but unfortunately he got a black flag. So yeah, I thought it would be like race about the fuel safe and all this stuff, but York was very aggressive today. So yeah, we switched place all over the race, and I'm happy that we didn't crash and finished the race on the first place at Spec 2.
Yeah, it was another great drive for you this season and a fantastic season for you. I want to ask you about your thoughts on how things went for you. Of course, 9 wins, a championship win in Spec 2 to boot, and overall, pretty darn good way to start off your time here in the Weekend Warriors. So how did you enjoy it?
Yeah, we had a racing league in Ukraine with these cars, so I'm pretty familiar with this car, and I got a very cool setup for it, and technically I didn't change anything through all the races, only for Watkins Glen I did more clearance, but yeah, in overall the season went very good, but yeah, I have to improve my iRating to race with Spec 1 guys next season. And overall, the great season, a lot of wins, a lot of cool battles with Spec 1 guys for the podiums, and yeah, thank you for this championship, for the broadcast, to sponsors, to your guys, to all racers. These races were very cool because of very close battles, but pretty fair, you know.
Yeah, we always love to see some absolutely amazing racing action here in the Weekend Warriors, and happy to see you be a part of it throughout this season, Dimitri. Thank you for joining us in the booth, and we look forward to seeing you out there come time for the start of Season 1 of 2026.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye.
And that right there was Dimitri Lukanov, your Spec 2 winner today and your Spec 2 champion. And on a quick little side note, I do want to throw out some love to many of the racers in the Weekend Warriors world who stop in to have a chat with us here. You know, having a chat with Dimitri, having a chat with Antonio, 2 very, very talented racers. English is not either of their first languages, but they still come in to have a chat with us anyways. They try their best, and I just want to commend them for coming in and having the bravery, firstly, to come into the broadcast booth and have a chat with us, and also give some very valuable insight that we always love to have here on these broadcasts. I know back in the day before I got into broadcasting, I don't think you would have been able to pay me $1 million to have an interview after a race was said and done, but I always love to have a chat with those drivers at the end of this race, as I do all season long. But Charles, a pretty darn good and very fitting way to end off the season of Formula Ford action. Final thoughts before we wrap things up.
Yeah, I want to echo those sentiments. It is, once again, this is an English broadcast, and a lot of these racers, English is not their first language. I thought Dimitri did a great job. It's much better than me trying to translate it into Ukrainian or Russian for him. So or any other language. Guido said, or Italian. It's like none of them would sound great. I might could get through one in Spanish, but that would be about it. Otherwise, but yeah, we do appreciate them coming in. So this is a good opportunity because we're professional, I guess, broadcasters, professional broadcast. But this is a good opportunity for when you're moving up in the iRacing ranks to get some good practice. Having interviews and stuff like that. It's just it's a good way to build yourself up and build your team up should you be racing with a team. So yeah, always get a chance to get the interviews and go in and use them as a learning tool more than anything else.
Yeah, we always love having a chat with drivers
sure.
at the end, and regardless of how much English they know and how much English they can speak, their assets and their ability to explain everything that they do behind the wheel is always very appreciated. I'm probably going to go on a slightly longer spiel when we're done with the Spec Racer Ford race, kind of touching on what has been an absolutely amazing year in the Weekend Warriors world, and certainly an amazing season here in Season 4 of 2025, celebrating 10 years with the SRFs. I believe next year will be the 3-year anniversary of this series of Formula Ford. So it's absolutely fantastic to see the Weekend Warriors and rounding off a full year, it feels like, of action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. It's been a treat all year long, and we're hoping that we can see you all on the racetrack or here on the broadcast come time for the start of Season 1 of 2026. But I think for one final time from this season of action, I would usually go to the upcoming shows. However, the graphic is a little bit out of date, so a lot of the stuff that you're seeing is primarily XSLR. We'll get that fully back up and rolling at the start of Season 1 when schedules are fully finalized. But of course, you will be able to tune into all of the Weekend Warriors action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But for one final time here in Season 4 of 2025 for the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all for that Spec Racer Ford race coming up later on this afternoon.